Hi everyone, this is Right to Life of Central California Executive Director John Girardi, bringing you another video in our 40 Videos for 40 Days for Life series. 40 Days for Life is the international campaign of prayer and presence outside abortion clinics throughout the country and throughout the world. If you want to learn more about this year's campaign, get in touch with us, go to rtlcc.org, or give us a call at 559-229-2229. Today on the show, I want to talk about a kind of generalized pro-life concept, if you will. Bear with me. It's a concept that I read about in a book written by one of my former professors at Notre Dame Law School, Carter Snead, and it's his book, What It Means to Be Human. It's basically a bioethics book, and it's Professor Snead, who is a bioethics expert. He was the legal counsel for President Bush's bioethics commission that he put together very early in his presidency. One of the things that this commission did was give new federal guidelines restricting federal funding for embryo-destructive stem cell research. Professor Snead, in his book, has this concept that he talks about ways in which we can think about a number of different bioethical issues, including the abortion issue, which is what he calls the spectrum of disability. And I really love this image, and I want to share it with all of you. All human beings live on a kind of spectrum of a spectrum of disability. When we enter this world as embryos, as fetuses, we are completely dependent upon our mothers for the very breath that we breathe, our sustenance, everything we are. We're completely dependent when we are conceived. When we are born, we continue to be completely dependent on our parents. Humans, unlike other animals, continue to be dependent on care from their parents for years and years and years and years, much longer than even the entire lifespan of certain species of mammals. We continue to be reliant on our parents for years of our education and growth and development. And then finally there comes a time where we get to a period of our own strength and we take on obligations and duties of care to other people. And sometimes those obligations and duties of care are not things we asked to take on or agreed to take on, but they are nonetheless things that we know we are obligated to fulfill, duties we are obligated to fulfill. If my parents, if they start getting very sick and are advancing in age and need someone to take care of them, well, I being the one adult child who still lives in the Fresno area, I would have to take care of them. That's my obligation as their kid. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't agree to that. But it is nonetheless my obligation, and it's something I would do. And if I didn't do it, I think anyone's moral judgment would hold that I was doing something kind of monstrous, a sort of act of rank ingratitude, that there are natural ties that tie us to one another to varying degrees, where unasked for duties and obligations are placed upon us, which we have to fulfill. And in part, it's a kind of gratitude. Just as I received care, I imposed burdens on my parents, I have this obligation to give care back. And it's not just in the context of parents and children. This extends to relationships with siblings, with friends. It can extend to relationships within whole political communities. Political communities have certain obligations to those who are poor, whether those are, there are various ways of arguing that those who are wealthy have obligations to those who are poor. There are all kinds of ways of thinking about our relationships with our fellow man as unasked for duties and obligations, and gratefully receiving that care from those who have those obligations to us. So we are utterly dependent when we start our lives. We give care when we are in our points of strength, and then at the end of our lives, whether through accident or illness or old age, we yet again gratefully receive care from those obligated to care for us. In this whole context, it sort of makes the pro-choice arguments seem silly. The idea that, well, it's just unreasonable to expect a woman to carry this child. the idea that the unborn child is somehow this stranger, this interloper with no claim to our love and affection, and not just the love and affection and protection of the mother, but the love and affection and care of the whole society, his broader family. For a woman who may be struggling economically in various circumstances, the response of a whole community to her. While none of this whole argument is really theological in its basis, one can't help but think of Christ's response to the question, "Who is my neighbor?" which precipitated the parable of the Good Samaritan, the idea that the Samaritan, who is a complete foreigner, outsider, stranger, enemy even to the Jewish people of Christ's time, that the Samaritan would provide that kind of care and love and respect for human life to someone of a different nation. Was I think so? It was something really illustrative of this basic reality of what it means to be human in the teaching of Jesus Christ. So this is maybe just a different way of thinking about all kinds of issues that relate to abortion. Is the fact that an unborn child is completely dependent, does that make his or her value less? Well, no. Is the fact that an unborn child doesn't have the same cognitive functions as an adult, does that make his or her value less? Well, no. It applies to issues relating to physician-assisted suicide. There's so many contexts in which thinking about humans as living on a spectrum of disability really addresses a lot of the typical pro-choice arguments we see. Tomorrow I want to address one of those, the famous, the violinist argument. You'll have to stay tuned and watch tomorrow's video to learn more about that. For Right to Life, I'm John Girardi.